Are you interested in doing a professional homeschool evaluation but feel uneasy about having someone look at your students' work? Do you have questions about the process and how everything comes together? Get our guide to stress-free homeschool evaluation techniques with our expert guidance. Don't miss out on this helpful information. Go to today's show notes for a copy of our ultimate guide to stress-free professional homeschool evaluations.
Welcome to the Essence of Homeschooling podcast, brought to you by the umbrella school, Statheros Academy. We empower and equip you to cultivate the authentic homeschool lifestyle where freedom and relationships rule.
Hey friend, I'm so glad you're here today. We're going to be talking about demystifying homeschool evaluations, and we're talking with our professional evaluator, Kim Almas. I am stoked to be able to talk through this because people do have a lot of questions about how it works, and there's a huge conversation in the homeschool community about standardized testing versus evaluations, and people are confused. Why would you do an evaluation and not a standardized test? Whether you're a seasoned homeschooling parent or you're just starting out, understanding this is crucial. We're going to cover what homeschool evaluations are, where to find them, qualities you should seek in an evaluator, because that's really important. You want to find out how they operate and who should consider evaluations, and most of all, the importance of undergoing the process so you know what to expect for you and your kids. Welcome, Kim. I'm so excited to have you here and talk to you today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Tell me just real quick, give me the rundown. What are homeschool evaluations?
Homeschool evaluation, according to law, specifically Colorado law, but also applies in Florida and other states, are simply assessments of your students' work in lieu of or instead of or as an alternative to standardized testing. In a nutshell, I just need to verify that the students are making progress commensurate with their ability, is the way it's worded in the law, which just means according to their own personal levels. I like to say that it's beautifully flexible because it just gives a lot of opportunities for all kinds of learners. And then also what's important about it is it has to be conducted by what they call a qualified individual, which needs to be a Colorado licensed teacher. And there are 2 or 3 other options in the law, but that's where I come in.
Just to make sure that everybody's clear, we're talking about Colorado and Florida specifically. Those are the 2 states that we can cover for homeschool evaluations. If you're in a state other than Colorado or Florida, then this isn't something you can count on applying in your state. You're going to want to look in your state and see what the requirements are.
Right, exactly. And when I do an evaluation, it is a little bit different in each state, just a couple of minor differences. But yes, generally speaking, and we'll talk about that as we go forward.
How are they different from standardized testing?
So with the standardized testing, that's kind of the type of test that we took growing up, where you fill in the little bubbles, and it's usually timed, although there are some options that are untimed. And sometimes those are a great fit for kids. Some kids love standardized testing, and some kids kind of freak out about the idea of testing. Some kids just aren't ready for testing for whatever reason. It varies. For example, if you have a struggling learner, testing might not be a good fit for them at all. Or maybe you just simply didn't necessarily teach to the test, is what they call it in schools. In the classroom, teachers are prepping their kids for weeks on end for these tests. And maybe your kids' interests are somewhere else, and that's okay. And we even had that come up in our family as well. It's perfectly fine. So sometimes your kids just aren't ready for the test. It's not for you for whatever reason, and that's fine. The alternative then is you still want a chance to have your kids sort of evaluated and see where they're at with their knowledge, and obviously so does the state. Whereas a standardized test is more of a snapshot of what your child remembers on that particular day that they're taking the test. Could be dependent on how well they slept the night before, if they had, a good breakfast or, just a Pop-Tart or something. Whereas evaluations cover more of the whole child and much more of a length of time. We look at the work that the child has already been doing over the course of that particular school year. All I have to do is make sure that the child is making progress according to their own personal level. Again, it's wonderfully flexible, and it can be very much specific to each child. If a child has special needs, I can absolutely fine tune, because some kids, the best thing that they've learned this year might be to identify their colors or learn some life skills, and that's all right. Other kids at the beginning of the school year, they're reading Dr. Seuss books. At the end of the school year, they've moved on to the boxcar children's. I'm just looking for progress. Older kids, teens, maybe they've progressed through an entire curriculum. So there's a lot of different ways that can look in an evaluation. It's really a lot less intense, a lot less stress for the kids and for the parent too, because you're not necessarily teaching to a test.
I think it's beautiful how they are unique for each child. They're not being compared to what other kids are doing, like in a standardized test. They're not having numbers assigned to what they're doing. It's truly a celebration of each individual child for what they're doing and what they're learning and how they're progressing. And I think it's fantastic.
Yes. And I like how you said celebrate too, because that's a big part of why I love what I do and why I got into it is just to be able to cheer on the parents and the students both that you're doing a good job. This is where you're succeeding. And okay, maybe I can help you out with some suggestions here or there. If you have some concerns or areas of struggle, that's all part of the process and that's fine. And it works really well with any learning style or teaching style too, because I have traditional families, more classical methods. I can work with the Charlotte Mason method, Waldorf, unschooling even. Love my unschoolers, lots of creative ideas there. So really, I like to say it really works well with any kind of homeschooler.
It does. It's the essence of homeschooling because the whole point of homeschooling is to make it unique for each child. I feel like it speaks to the progress better than just a standardized test. I mean, and if parents want to do standardized tests and that's what's best for their family, they should absolutely do it. I just don't think anybody should have to feel the pressure of going into the standardized test when this is such a great alternative. And that's one thing, just to mention, we have parent evaluations for families who are enrolled in Stotheros Academy because in the state of Colorado, we are legally an independent school. And so we have the autonomy to establish policies and procedures around verifying progress according to abilities. And so with our parent evaluation, you touched on this a little bit. We designed this evaluation not only to address the whole child and look at all aspects of each student and how they're progressing, but also so the parents can look and see and really, really feel good about the progress that's being made and recognize the parents' role and identify family achievements in the student's education because it's a family endeavor. It's not just the child doing things on their own and it's not just the parent assigning the work. It's a family effort. And so our parent evaluations are designed to go back through what has been done, identify what has been successful, where the kids are strong, and then where to come in and support them in areas where they need it in the next year going forward. But then also to just sit back and say, wow, look at all we've achieved, because moms don't do that enough. Moms, we're so busy carrying around guilt and second guessing ourselves. We're just not in the right headspace to truly appreciate what's happening. And what's even better this year, now for our parent evaluations, you have the option to have Kim look at it and then to certify the results and to give you an official statement of progress. So you can have the best of both worlds with doing that parent evaluation and then also having Kim look at it and then giving you feedback as she sees fit according to what you're doing with your students. So I feel like the parent evaluation with the certification of the results is like the best of all of the assessments and evaluation worlds coming together. I think it's fantastic. I'm excited to be able to let families do that this year. How do homeschooling evaluations even work? Do they have to come to see you with their box full of work? Like how does this work?
I have had everything and almost nothing, honestly. Again, my goal is to verify that the students are making progress at their own level. Keyword always is progress here. Every family is completely different. Sometimes I will sit and have a conversation with the parent and we'll do it verbally like that. And they'll say, this is what my child has learned. I believe that parents are in this for the good of their children. They want their children to learn and that they're very eager to have them succeed and do well. I'm very, very much in support of parental authority and autonomy. Sometimes that comes down to we just talk things through. Most of the time, though, people like to send me pictures of things that their kids have worked on. When I'm able to meet in person, which isn't as much these days, sometimes people will bring me workbooks and things like that. Through the Stotheros website, you can decide what kind of level of evaluation that you want. There's a really super easy way to upload your pictures and your information to the website. And all we ask for is at least 3 to 5 samples of your child's work. The best subject areas are really math and language arts, if you can pull that off, because they're so foundational and they also kind of align to normal testing kinds of things. And most people usually have that on hand. Usually I start out with asking for that, depending on your learning style. as well if you're more unschooling and things like that. But it does work just fine if you're working with online curriculum. You can screenshot report cards or progress reports and send me that. Maybe you are a literature heavy family and you can send me a book list, all the books that your kids have been reading, and I can see the progress in the difficulty of the books as far as that goes. Essentially, you turn in work samples, whatever that looks like for you. And then I take a look and I say, yep, looks like they're making progress. They've gone from lesson 1 through lesson 47 or 87, whatever it is. And they're making progress. Looks like they're learning, they're doing well. And 99.9% of the time, that is not even an issue at all because we have lots of good, strong, dedicated families out there. And a lot of times too, things can overlap. So for example, maybe you have a great history report that you want to turn in, and I can look at that and I can also say, oh, that's also shows me their writing skills, or I can tell they've really done a lot of research here. So clearly some reading has been done, some writing has been done. So lots of times things overlap as well. And so I can say, oh, I looked at this child's history report, great job on the research, but hey, let's work on some fine motor skills or whatever the case may be. We can also provide feedback depending on what's turned in. It can also get very, very creative with what you turn in because a lot of times people use, they're very project-based or activity-based, especially in the younger grades when it comes to history and science, field trip-based. Oh, we went to Bent's Old Fort and this is what we learned. And then after that, we went to Manitou Cliff Dwellings or whatever it might be. You can explain that and say, oh, I can see you're working your way through Colorado history. That's showing me progress. It really is, again, very, very flexible. In Florida, we have a couple other requirements besides looking over the work samples. I also need to see a book list and then also do need to actually have a short chat with the students. And so right now, working through Zoom, we can just, child pops on the Zoom call. We have a little chat. I say, hi, how are you doing? What was your favorite thing you worked on this year? What was your favorite book? I never quiz them, oh, what's 4 times 10 or anything like that. It's just a little chat. I did make some contact with them. In Colorado, it's a little bit different. We don't have that requirement. So I can work solely with the parent if I want to. I really enjoy having interaction with the child though, because then I get to cheer them on personally and encourage them and say, you are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Give them some fun ideas for learning their times tables or some reading books they might like to cover, things like that. Today, in fact, I was working with a family who's currently in India, and we had a Zoom call today, and we were talking about algebra. And because of their traveling, they were doing kind of some block scheduling and working on just getting through that algebra book right now. That's great. She's making progress. We also talked about, when you are at a certain percentage of the curriculum, you get to call it done. And we got to talk about why algebra is important. So if you can get to that point because of whatever your goals are as a teenager, as a high schooler, it's great because we can have that conversation versus, again, back to the testing. It's just a snapshot. It's just how they were doing, what they remembered on that particular day. Doesn't cover the whole child, doesn't cover what you as a parent want to talk about. Maybe you would rather be talking a lot more about, I don't know, cursive or whatever is your child's struggle or needs. And we can talk about those things. So it's nice to be able to have that more personal touch.
Are you looking for a supportive community to walk with you through your homeschooling journey? Look no further. Statheros Academy is your go-to umbrella school for fulfilling legal reporting requirements in Colorado. But what if you don't live in Colorado? We still serve you through our support tools and services. At Statheros Academy, we're not just another institution. We're your partners in education, providing comprehensive support services designed to empower, encourage, and equip you to be the best homeschool parent that your children deserve. Teacher and student IDs, parent and professional evaluations, attendance logs, record-keeping services, DIY high school transcripts, or our official homeschool high school transcript service produces personalized transcripts that highlight your students' unique accomplishments. High school diplomas celebrate your family's achievement when you successfully complete the adventure. Additionally, our experienced homeschool coaches provide one-on-one support throughout your journey. Custom tailor your homeschool support system by selecting one of our 3 enrollment packages based on your family's needs. This way, you can get exactly what you need to make the most of your homeschooling experience. We come alongside you in the way you want to be supported, whether that's the bare minimum or holding your hand each step of the way. The Umbrella School's Statheros Academy provides what you want the way you want it. So why wait? Enroll with Statheros Academy today and unlock a world of possibilities for your homeschooling journey. Go to theumbrellaschool.com to learn more and sign up. We can't wait to serve your family. You know, one thing about standardized tests, in Colorado, the score has to be above the bottom 13%. What is it in Florida? Do you know off the top of your head what the requirements are around standardized testing performance to continue homeschooling?
I believe it's 13% also, but I do need to double check on that.
Whatever the number is, it serves the purpose to show what I'm about to say. What I found when I would do the standardized tests with my kids, I would get the result. I would quickly scan to the bottom. It's hard to get to the bottom 13% if you're legitimately homeschooling. Like, I think you'd have to work pretty hard to do that bad of a job, to be honest. So I would just look and see, okay, where their percentiles, where do they fall? Check, 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 check. Okay, they're good. And then I never looked at it again.
Right.
How did that benefit my kids? How did that benefit me as a parent overseeing their education? It didn't benefit anything. It was just checking an arbitrary box. Whereas without evaluations, you're really giving some serious attention to the work that's been done and how the child is doing and where they're growing. And then really taking an honest look to say, where do they need more support? Where do I need to support my child better and to give a little bit more attention? So I just feel realistically, as a parent who's done both the standardized testing and evaluations, I feel like evaluations are more supportive and conducive to furthering an education that's customized for that child. I think that they're much more efficient. Like you said, on the Statheros website, you don't have to be a member of Statheros to purchase the evaluations through us. Anybody can do that. And then you can turn in the results either to a school district with an NOI or to your umbrella school, because Kim meets all the requirements established by law for a professional evaluator. And it's very simple. You just make the purchase and then it walks you through. You fill out the information. You can take a picture right from your phone or upload pictures that you've already taken and you send it right over. We have the option as well where you can add the digital portfolio, where then we will take all the pictures of the work samples that you provide and any descriptions that you provide. And then we put it into a nice package for you. And it's for your records. You wouldn't need to show this to anybody. Just like a year in review of all of the things so that you have one place to hold everything. It's a nice for record keeping. It's nice for nostalgia, for sentimental purposes, to be able to look back, kind of like a yearbook for your child over what they've accomplished for that year. And we have standard processing times, which can take up to 10 days, or we can expedite it within 2 business days. We have some pretty flexible options as far as how you can submit your information. But this is a really big one, Kim, that I want you to talk about is when people are looking at doing an evaluation instead of a standardized test, there are a lot of evaluators out there and there's a lot of great evaluators out there, but what specifically should people be looking for when they're choosing and selecting who's going to do their child's evaluations? What's important?
Right. And I agree with you. There are some wonderful other evaluators out there. In fact, I was just recommending somebody else today in somebody's particular area that wanted to meet in person. There's some just really good things going on, but things that you should look for. It's super important. The evaluators are familiar with the state regulations to start off with, because you want to make sure that, first of all, that they're qualified according to the state law. Also, that they know exactly what to look for and that they're not asking for too much or for too little from you. They really need to be aware of what the state is actually asking for. There's so much misinformation out there. In fact, when I started working in Florida as well, I actually joined a group that had an entire course on what are the things that people misunderstand about evaluations. Why or why not is that correct according to the law? Super important that the evaluator is familiar with state regulations. And then I think that after that, it's just a matter of, are they a good fit for you personally? Are they approachable? Do you feel like you have a good kind of vibe with them right off the bat? Is there a professionalism there that you know that you can trust them with your information, your child's information? Be safe with that. It is not uncommon at all. It's perfectly fine to ask someone either for recommendations or just a short phone call or email, just to kind of, feel them out, just to see, is this going to be a good fit for me? I do that quite often. People shoot me messages through Facebook all the time or email me or even phone calls, and we chat and we decide, is this going to be a good fit or not? 9 times out of 10, it works out very, very well. Don't worry. It's very common. Don't feel uncomfortable or embarrassed or anything like that. It's very normal for us to answer your questions. No worries there. Another important question to ask is, how much experience do they have working working with homeschoolers specifically, because of course, one of the major qualifications to do evaluations is that you have your teacher's license in that state. And most of the time we're former teachers or sometimes current teachers. That doesn't necessarily mean though that the evaluator is familiar working with homeschool families and how we work. Because just like when I first started homeschooling my own kids, I thought it was going to look like the classroom brought into my home. And homeschooling as a lifestyle, that is a whole paradigm shift that we wrap our heads around the more we get into this. The evaluator that you choose, you want to make sure that they're comfortable with your teaching style, your child's learning style, and that they understand that homeschooling is a lifestyle. It's not just school at home. So you don't want somebody that's going to assume that you fit into that same little box and they're just looking to check those boxes, because it is absolutely not the same. And I've actually worked with a couple of families within the last few months who had an evaluation done that turned out like that. And it was just a little bit frustrating. And the parents were kind of laughing. They're thinking, this person doesn't really understand homeschooling. So it really is a real thing that's out there that you do want to be aware of.
Definitely. I would say if they say the word rubric, then that's probably not going to be a good fit. And you should just say thank you for your time and move on, because I mean, am I wrong, Kim? Do you tell me?
No, that's just funny. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against rubrics per se, but absolutely that is sort of a catchphrase or a catchword. Yeah, for sure. Just a little quick.
Well, I don't think that you can really do an evaluation for, like we were talking about, for a unique child educational journey on a rubric. I don't think that you
No,
can do that when children
no.
are so different and interests are so deep and families are so unique. It's a little bit stifling. I just think that that's maybe one thing to look out for. Are there any other code words that you can think of that might be good to watch out for?
Oh, state standards,
Oh
state standards.
gosh, yeah.
Even to an extent, Common Core. And again, there's some pros and cons there, and there's a little bit of room for debate and difference of opinion. But generally, if somebody's going to double down on Common Core, that's not necessarily a good sign. I would take a step back from that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Common Core does not align with the majority of homeschoolers. I mean, if a homeschooler wants to do that in their home, more power to them. I'm all about parents deciding what's best for their family. But the vast majority of homeschoolers are going to laugh at Common Core. And
Right. And it depends on the age of your child and their aptitudes and what their goals are and things like that. I could probably do a whole other podcast on that. Generally speaking, homeschool as a lifestyle, that's not necessarily something that you want to go with.
absolutely.
For the typical homeschooler, evaluations are low stress. And I really want to emphasize that low stress for the child and for the parent, valid, legal, and comprehensive option to standardized testing. Just a fabulous way for you and your children to get some encouragement and just to see their areas of progress in all the subject areas or whatever they're working on, see their success and be able to cheer them on. And also, it's a really good way to get some personalized one-on-one help and support to address any weak areas that you might have in front of you. So the encouragement is definitely for both the parent and the child. And we can talk about different curriculum that might work better, or maybe you decide you're going to switch from textbooks to a more relaxed kind of system. Learning and teaching styles. We can talk about high school prep, although we do have a high school specialist at Cetheros, so that's good too. Really, the biggest thing for me is I get to just take a look at your kids' work, say, yep, they're making progress, cheer you on, support you where you need it, and everybody leaves feeling relieved and happy with tools that you can use going forward as well.
Yeah, that's really great. And I have an answer to this, but I want to hear what you say first, and then we'll see how that compares to what I would say, but I want you to go first. What do you say to the parents who will say they need it to get in college? They have to have standardized tests to get into college, so they should start standardized tests early on so they can get used to it.
I think when kids are young, it is an awful lot of stress. I'm not sure that it is necessarily worth the stress that it can cause. And again, some kids are wired that way and they like filling in the little bubbles. And that's fine if your kids enjoy that. The closer you get to high school and the more your kids start knowing what they might want to do after high school, if they're even interested in college, sure, that might be something. You can take some practice tests. You could find them online. You can find them at Barnes and Noble and get a little bit of practice in so they have a general idea of how the process works, you can look at Khan Academy because they're connected with College Board with the SATs, and you can get an idea of what you might find on the test. So you can really sort of cover that base when you get to high school. You can even turn it into a half-credit course called test prep if you want, and work on practicing prepping for the test if you want to. But again, it depends on the child and what their interests are and their goals are. And so it absolutely is going to be specific to each family and each child within each family.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, those are all really good points. Though there's only two things I would add to that is if we look at the purpose of standardized tests, I think originally it was to see how the kids are doing. Feel like largely it's morphed over to an assessment on the teachers and determining if they're going to get a raise or what their wages are going to be. And it's for their performance evaluation. And that just doesn't exist in homeschooling. That's not even a purpose. Really look truly, if you want to do a standardized test, like I said, go ahead and do it, but know your why and take the time to find a test that's going to give you the results that you can actually implement in a healthy way in your homeschool so that you're benefiting from it. You're not doing what I did and you just get the test, you look, okay, they're doing great. And then you throw it in a file and you never look at it again because you're too busy and you have too much stuff going on and you might mean to get back to it later and you don't do it. The other thing is ACT and SAT scores are no longer required for college entry. At the vast majority of colleges, they've gotten rid of that. What they use it for now is for scholarships. So if your child needs a scholarship, then definitely you're going to want to take that test. But just like you said, Kim, they can learn that later. That's a skill that can easily be honed in. And you're not into DIY and you want somebody else to teach it. There's plenty of great organizations that specifically teach people how to take tests. And so there are resources there available. I think there's this place for standardized tests for kids who are absolutely college bound who need scholarships. And if your kids don't fit into that box, you don't need to cram them into a box.
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely agree. I like to tell my families, look at what your college is doing, the college that your kid might be interested in, talk to them specifically, ask them the closer you get to that stage of their life, what are your requirements, and kind of go from there. So you're kind of working backwards from that. But generally speaking, yeah, absolutely. It's not like it used to be. That is for sure. Not everybody has to prep for that.
Yeah, I think kids can reasonably, if there are means to do it, they can go all the way through and never take a standardized test and succeed just fine.
Oh, I 100% agree. Yes.
It's all about freedom. That's what the essence of homeschooling is freedom.
Yes. And relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. That's number one, relationships, and freedom is number two.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, remember that homeschooling evaluations are a valuable tool for assessing your students' progress and ensuring academic success. By understanding what evaluations entail, where to find them, and how to choose the right evaluator, homeschooling families can navigate this process with confidence and effectively support their children's educational journey. Thanks for tuning into the Essence of Homeschooling. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Come join us in our private Facebook community, The Essence of Homeschooling, where you can connect with like-minded individuals, share resources, and gain valuable insights from Colleen and our homeschool coaches. We can't wait to meet you.